she took them down to the basement one by one. And when Patrick came home with the takeout bag and the CVS bag, the house was eerily quiet. That is where this story ends. But the story of how it got there, that is what this trial is going to decide. Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Docket number 2383CR000198. 3 counts of murder in the first degree. Tried before the Honorable William Sullivan, Justice of the Superior Court, Plymouth County, Massachusetts. The defendant is Lindsay M. Clancy. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Jennifer Spray and Shannon Buckingham. The defense is represented by Attorney Kevin Remington. Today is the first day of trial, and what happened inside that courtroom on opening day is going to stay with you. Let's go back to the beginning. The jury took their oath on a Tuesday morning in Plymouth. 12 people, sworn to well and truly try the issues between the Commonwealth and the defendant according to the evidence. Judge Sullivan walked them through the procedures before a single word of testimony. The presumption of innocence, the burden of proof, the meaning of reasonable doubt, and he made something very clear to that jury right from the start. 3 counts of murder in the first degree, 2 theories of liability, deliberate premeditation, and murder with extreme atrocity or cruelty, and layered on top of all of that, the central legal question this trial is going to turn on: criminal responsibility. Judge Sullivan explained it carefully. A person is not criminally responsible for her conduct if she has a mental disease or defect, and as a result of that disease or defect, lacks the substantial capacity either to appreciate the wrongfulness of her conduct or to conform her conduct to the requirements of the law. The Commonwealth has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she did not meet that threshold. The defense does not have to prove anything. That instruction, right there, is the fault line running through this entire case. Now, opening statements are not evidence. The judge was clear about that too. They are road maps. They tell you where each side intends to go, and both road maps were laid out in full on the first day of this trial. What is remarkable is just how different those roads are. Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham stepped forward for the Commonwealth. She did not open with a legal argument. She opened with 3 children. Cora, she had just turned 5. Sweet, silly, smart. She loved sparkly dresses and wearing bows in her hair. She loved princesses and baby dolls. She even tried to convince her preschool teachers that her name was Sophia because she loved the Disney character Sophia the First so very much. Dawson. He was 3, a boy's boy. A little rambunctious but funny, full of energy. He loved trucks, construction trucks, fire trucks, and he spoke with a raspy little voice. Kallen, 8 months old. Always smiling with chunky cheeks, a sweet little baby. And then Ada Buckingham landed the line that framed everything that followed. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, because they are not. She told that jury that on January 24th, 2023, Lindsay Clancy strangled all 3 of her children, deliberately and meticulously, one by one, using exercise bands. First Dawson, then Cora, and finally Kallen. She told them that the evidence would be difficult to see, difficult to hear, and difficult to process. And then she walked them through the day. It had recently snowed. It was a Tuesday. Tuesdays were days Cora and Dawson usually went to preschool at Learning Sprouts in Duxbury, but not this Tuesday. They were home. Cora had a routine doctor's appointment that morning, an annual checkup. The defendant took Cora to the doctor while Patrick stayed home with Dawson and Kallen. Normal morning. They texted each other photos. Patrick sent a picture of Dawson, who had dressed himself for the first time and was jumping for joy. Lindsay sent a photo of Cora in her little doctor's office mask. When they got home, Patrick went down to his basement office and got back to work. Lindsay was in charge of the kids for the rest of the day. She put Kallen down for a nap. She bundled up Cora and Dawson and took them outside to the backyard. They built a snowman. She sent pictures of the snowman to Patrick in the basement and to her mom in Connecticut. The day, by all accounts, was a good one. Patrick would later describe it that way. A good day. Then Ada Buckingham started zeroing in on the afternoon. Around 4 in the afternoon. The defendant searched her phone for kids' Miralax. She opened Apple Maps and searched the route from their house to a restaurant called 3V in Plymouth. a place the family had been before, but not their normal takeout spot. She searched how far it was, how long it would take to get there. Around 4:53, she texted Patrick and asked if he wanted takeout from 3V. He said sure. She called in the order. Around 5:15, Patrick left the house. He saw Dawson eating chicken nuggets and green beans on the couch. Everything seemed normal. He was going to stop at CVS on the way to the restaurant. They needed kids' Miralax because the doctor had recommended a laxative. For Cora's stomach issues. Lindsay had already called CVS to confirm they had it. And here is where ADA Buckingham made her most pointed argument. She told the jury that Lindsay Clancy knew exactly how long Patrick would be gone. She had searched the route. She knew the distance. She knew the approximate time it would take him to stop at CVS, pick up the medication, drive to 3V, get the food, and come back. She had a window, and according to the Commonwealth, she used it. After Patrick left, the defendant took the children down to the basement. She separated Dawson from Cora and Kallen. Then she wrapped exercise bands around each child's neck and pulled until each one of them was dead. She left the bands in place and went back upstairs. In the kitchen, she picked up a knife. She went to the second-floor master bedroom, locked the door, crushed up pills, and attempted to take her own life. She cut her wrists and her neck. She moved the bed away from the wall, opened the window, and went out. She landed on the ground outside. In the middle of all of this, she missed a call from Patrick. He was at CVS. She called him right back. They talked for 14 seconds. Nothing she said alarmed him. He continued on. She continued with what she was doing. Around 6 in the evening, Patrick came home. He had the takeout bag. He had the CVS bag with the Miralax. He walked in through the mudroom, set the bags down. The house was eerily quiet. He called to the kids. No answer. He called to Lindsay. No answer. He dialed her phone. No answer. He went upstairs, found the master bedroom door locked, and opened it. He saw blood. He saw the open window. He went to the backyard. That is where he found her, on the ground, moaning and mumbling. At 6:11 in the evening, Patrick Clancy called 911. First responders arrived almost immediately. While they were tending to Lindsay in the backyard, Patrick told them he needed to find his kids. She had told him they were in the basement. He went down. He found each child with an exercise band still wrapped around their neck. He was still on the phone with 911 when he found them. He screamed for help. And he said, "She killed the kids." Efforts to resuscitate Cora and Dawson were unsuccessful. First responders from Duxbury and surrounding communities kept trying all the way to the hospital. But when they arrived, there was nothing more to be done for Cora and Dawson. Staff at Beth Israel got a heartbeat on Kallen, but he never started breathing on his own. He never regained consciousness. He was transferred to Boston Children's Hospital, and he died 3 days later, on January 27. Lindsay was taken to South Shore Hospital and then transferred to Brigham and Women's in Boston. She had multiple traumas, including spinal injuries. She is paralyzed. Now, the Commonwealth knew going in that the defense would raise mental illness, and Ada Buckingham addressed it directly. She told the jury that Lindsay Clancy would claim she heard a voice, a male voice she had never heard before, a voice she never heard again, and that this voice told her it was her last chance, that she had to kill the children so that she could kill herself, that she took immediate action the moment she heard it. That, once the children were dead, the voice stopped. The Commonwealth's response to that was blunt. They told the jury to consider the source, the timing, the substance. They said the evidence will show that on January 24th, 2023, this was not a woman in the throes of psychosis. This was a woman who acted intentionally, rationally, and swiftly to accomplish a specific goal. A woman who had researched the route, who had timed the window, who answered a phone call mid-act and said nothing that gave Patrick any reason for concern, who then went upstairs, locked a door, crushed pills into a cup with leftover lemonade, and cut her own throat in front of a mirror. And the Commonwealth made a character argument as well. They described Lindsay Clancy as a classic overachiever, in school, in her nursing career, in her personal life, someone who needed to control every detail, strict schedules, carefully planned meals, sleep scheduled to the minute. They said that when the structure of her life became difficult to maintain after Kallen was born, when the nanny was gone, when Patrick went back to work, when she was responsible for everything, she struggled, and that in struggling, she withheld information from her husband and her doctors, that she reported symptoms inconsistent with her daily activities, that she sought quick fixes changed medications after days, and disengaged from treatment when she did not like the plan. Their conclusion was stark. They argued that this was a woman who no longer wanted the life she had, that when she saw a way out, she made what they called a selfish choice to take it, and to take Cora, Dawson, and Kallen with her before attempting to take her own life. Then Cora, and finally Kallen. That was the Commonwealth's opening, deliberate premeditation, a calculated window, a timed plan. Now, attorney Kevin Remington stood for the defense. He started differently. He did not argue facts right away. He spoke to the jury about what they were about to go through. He called it a service. He said, "God bless you." He told them they would never forget this case. And then he started building a different picture entirely. Remington acknowledged up front what the prosecution had said, that this is not a referendum on women's mental health, on postpartum psychosis, on how the medical system treats women. And then he said, essentially, that it absolutely is, because you cannot understand what happened on January 24th without understanding what happened in the 4 months before it. He described a woman the jury was going to hear a great deal about. A high achiever, yes. A competitive cheerleader. A dedicated nurse at one of the best hospitals in the country. A woman who named her first child Cora after the very first baby she ever delivered as a nurse. A woman, Remington said, who spent every room of her home filling it with toys, with alphabet posters, with cartoon characters on the walls, with every sign of a life built around loving her children. He walked through the marriage. Patrick and Lindsay met in South Boston in 2013 through Patrick's cousin. They dated, moved in together, bought a house in Duxbury. They had 3 children. And then, after Kallen was born in May of 2022, things began to change. Remington described a critical detail that would run through his entire opening. After Kallen's birth, Lindsay was prescribed Zoloft, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an antidepressant, and Remington argued that prescribing an SSRI to someone with underlying bipolar disorder is not just ineffective, it is dangerous. It can destabilize a person's brain chemistry in significant ways. He did not say this as a casual observation. He said it as the foundation of the defense. He then listed the medications, and the list was long: sertraline, lorazepam, hydroxyzine, buspirone, fluoxetine, quetiapine, diazepam, amitriptyline, prescription after prescription, from multiple providers over a period of roughly 4 months. He showed the jury a chart. He walked through the timeline. Dr. Jennifer Tuss, nurse practitioner Rebecca Jaleta, nurse Julie Paul, each one adding to the pharmaceutical stack. Each one, Remington argued, missing the underlying condition. He described a woman who rocked on the sofa crying. but he also said Zazel did not tell Lindsay what to say. He gave her a cell phone so she could call Patrick. He addressed the prosecution's argument about Lindsay appearing functional, appearing social, appearing capable of interaction in the weeks before the killings. He did not deny it. He said she put on a face. He said there is video from the Museum of Science, from a trip to the Cape, from a family birthday party. He said that is what people struggling with severe psychiatric illness sometimes do. They show up, they interact, they smile, and then they go home and rock on the sofa. And he ended with this: Patrick Clancy will testify. He does not have to. He will take the stand because he lived this. He was there for everything that came before January 24th. And what he saw was not a woman planning to dispose of her children because they were inconvenient. What he saw was a woman who loved her kids and was drowning, reaching for help that never fully arrived. After both openings concluded, the Commonwealth called its first witness. Patrick Clancy took the stand. He is 36 years old. He lives in New York now. He works in tech. He and Lindsay are divorced. And from the moment he sat down in that witness box, the weight of what he has been carrying was visible. ADA Spray walked him through the history carefully and deliberately. How he and Lindsay met through his cousin in South Boston in May of 2013. How they started dating in July. How they moved in together in September of 2015 in Quincy, then bought a house in Weymouth, got married in December of 2016. And moved to 47 Summer Street in Duxbury in July of 2018 after their first child was born. He had been working from home since 2018, and his office was in the finished basement. He walked through the births of all 3 children. Cora, born December 24, 2017. A difficult delivery, significant tearing and bleeding. He described Lindsay's recovery as slow. After his 2 weeks of paternity leave, she remained on maternity leave, and as the date to return to work approached, he noticed anxiety building in her. He said that became a pattern with all 3 pregnancies. The time home was good. The approach of returning to work brought stress. She just had a really hard time being separated from them. Dawson, born September 30, 2019, he called that delivery traumatic. Breech position. Significant bruising and tearing, much worse physically than Cora's birth. Kallen, born May 26, 2022. Patrick described that delivery as great, relatively quick. Both of them were smiling afterward. No significant physical trauma. After Kallen was born, both Patrick and Lindsay were home that summer on leave. He described those months as genuinely happy. Beach trips, the boat, vacations, friends' houses. He said Cora and Dawson had a lot of activity: gymnastics, swimming, soccer, skiing. The family was doing well. Then he went back to work in late August, and things started to shift. He described Lindsay's demeanor as slightly stressed but in good spirits at first. That changed. He testified that by mid-October, she was gradually becoming more depressed. Small things at first. She did not want to go to a Halloween event. She was anxious about him taking Cora on a trip to San Francisco. The energy was different. And then ADA Spray asked him about a wedding in New Hampshire. September 17, 2022, he and Lindsay attended. And walking downtown together, Lindsay told him she was thinking about starting Zoloft, that she thought it would help with her anxiety and the transition back to work. He asked her how she would get it. She said she would ask her doctor. They usually just give it to you. Then ADA Spray asked a pointed question. Did Lindsay tell him she had already obtained the prescription the day before she told him she was going to ask for it? He learned that later. Yes, she was telling him she was going to ask for the prescription. She already had it. He was not aware of how few pills she actually took out of the bottles she was filling. Out of a 30-pill prescription for Zoloft, filled September 15th, only 7 pills were taken. Out of 30 Ativan, filled October 26th, 6 pills. A Buspirone prescription, same date, 2 pills out of 30. Hydroxyzine, October 26th, 3 pills out of 30. A second Buspirone prescription from November 9th, no pills at all. Trazodone from November 16th, 7.5 pills out of 30. A lot of prescriptions, not a lot of pills taken. Patrick confirmed that he was not always with her watching exactly what she took. Sometimes he saw it, sometimes he did not. He described the night she came to him and said she had been having trouble sleeping. She asked if he would mind sleeping in the basement for a while, with the baby monitors, so she could have fewer disruptions. He tried it for about 2 nights, then she went to the basement herself. She slept down there for maybe a couple of weeks. All of that information came from her. He was upstairs. He testified that Lindsay never told him she had sought therapy after Dawson's birth until he found out at the time. He said she got a therapist for a short period after Dawson, but it did not last very long. No psychiatric hospitalizations after Cora's birth. None after Dawson's. The first real escalation came in the fall of 2022. I didn't cook anything. It's been a long day. He said sure. She sent him the menu at 4:56. They texted about what to order. She called in the order. He came upstairs, rocked Kallen on his knees, kissed Cora on the head, saw Dawson on the couch eating chicken nuggets from a bowl. Lindsay was standing in the doorway by the basement stairs, holding Kallen. Her demeanor was normal. He said be right back. He walked out the door. That was the last time he would see his children alive. Patrick described coming home around 6. He had the takeout bag. He had the CVS bag with the Miralax. He walked in through the mudroom and put everything down. The house was quiet. He called out. No answer. He called her phone. No answer. He went upstairs, found the bedroom door locked, forced it open. He saw blood. He saw the window open. He went outside and found her on the ground. He called 911 at 6:11. When he got back inside and went to the basement, he found all 3 of his children, each one with an exercise band still around their neck. He was still on the phone with 911. He screamed for help, and he said, "She killed the kids." Patrick's direct examination continued through the afternoon session, covering the McLean hospitalization in more detail, the question of what treatment Lindsay did and did not receive there, and the broader timeline of prescriptions and providers from September 2022 through January 2020. 3. The jury was shown photographs of all 3 children. The exhibit photographs ADA Spray asked Patrick to identify. He described them simply. Cora was into princesses and had a lot of friends and liked taking care of people. Dawson liked firefighters and trucks and Paw Patrol. Kallen was just a happy baby. He said it without drama. He looked at those photographs and said it. The session broke for the afternoon. When court resumed, testimony continued through the Cape Cod Water Park video and into the final days before January 24th. At the end of that Tuesday afternoon, Judge Sullivan excused the jury until Wednesday morning. He reminded them not to read anything, not to talk to anyone, not to do any research. He thanked them for their time and their effort. Court went into recess, and in that courthouse in Plymouth, with the jury gone and the lawyers gathering their materials, the shape of this trial had become clear. The prosecution had built a case around a calculated window. A woman who researched a route, timed a departure, and used 14 minutes of silence to commit 3 murders. The defense had built a case around a medical system failure. A woman who went to every appointment, filled every prescription, called every hotline, and still fell through every net. Both sides agree on the facts of what happened in that basement on January 24th, 2023. What they disagree about, fundamentally and completely, is what was happening inside Lindsay Clancy's mind when it did. That question is what this jury is going to have to answer, not what she did. Everyone agrees on what she did. The question is whether she knew, in the legal sense, what she was doing, whether she could have stopped, whether the mind that directed those actions was one that the law can hold responsible. 12 jurors took an oath to well and truly try that question.